Hello and welcome to the Ellison Government Virtual Classroom. Today we're going to be looking at our first lesson in Unit 6, which is Government Policy and the Market, kind of our first in the transition over toward these more economics-focused units here at the end of the school year. So we're going to jump right into it. We have two sections that we're going to look at today. First, we're going to be looking at our types of economies and our basic economic questions that help us determine what our types of economies are. And then second, we're going to transition over to looking at some basic principles of economics, so these basic ideas that we have to ask ourselves when determining how economic systems function. So when we're trying to decide what type of economy a country has, we ask ourselves these same three questions. We ask ourselves what to produce, how to produce it, and for whom to produce. So by answering these three questions, what are we going to make, how are we going to make it, and who are we going to make it for, and who are we going to distribute it to? By answering those questions, you will in fact design a type of economy. And the three that we categorize countries into that we have reviewed before in class, but we'll look at a little more here today, are a market economy, a command economy, and a mixed economy, or a mixed market economy as it's sometimes referred to as. We're going to start with a market economy, the first one that we typically look at. And in this scenario, the government is totally hands-off. Government steps back, allows businesses, allows people, allows the market to determine those factors of production. People and businesses decide what to produce. People and businesses decide how to produce it. So here we have elements of capitalism, of competition, and this usually has really good benefits in terms of making sure that we are making things efficiently and the most cost-effective way. This also increases business production and makes companies grow larger and quicker and leads to a lot of capital. That's why we call this a capitalist system. So our examples of a market economy in the world today, none of these are going to be perfect examples, but countries that typically rank very high in terms of economic freedom and low levels of government regulation are Hong Kong. We can also look at New Zealand as an example of a good market economy. Next, we have command economy, which is the total opposite of our market economy, where instead of people and businesses making those decisions, this is totally hands-on government approach to the factors and means of production. So in this scenario, the government is coming in and making all or most of the economic decisions. And if we ask ourselves those three basic questions, what to produce, the government is telling you what to produce. How to produce it, the government will come in and tell you how to produce it. And for whom to produce, the government would be the one coming in and deciding where these goods and services and how these goods and services are distributed. So our examples, we typically point to the Soviet Union as kind of our closest example of a truly command economy under that communist system. But none of these are going to be perfect examples. In a modern example, people often point to China, who even still is kind of pulled back toward more of a mixed economy, but certainly still on that command side if we're looking at this as a spectrum. Lastly, we're going to look at a mixed market economy or a mixed economy. Again, if you think of this as a spectrum, from one end we have market, the other end we have command. Everything that falls in between, somewhere in the middle, could be categorized as a mixed economy. So it's using elements of both. It's using elements of the capitalist system where people and businesses are able to make their own decisions, make those independent decisions regarding the factors and means of production, but also using some government regulation. So you're trying to kind of weigh out the pros and cons of both and find that happy middle ground here with a mixed economy. So the United States would kind of fall a little more on the market side of that spectrum. So the United States could be considered a mixed market economy. However, most countries in the world, modern countries, are going to be somewhere in that mixed category, and whether they fall a little more on little more on one end or the other of that spectrum. Most, again, will find their way here into the mixed category. Next, we're going to transition to our basic economic principles. The first economic principle we're going to look at is scarcity. And it's the idea that our wants are generally greater than the resources we have available to satisfy those wants. So you could think of an endless list of things that you would like to have, a new car, a new house, a new phone, a new whatever, but these things cost money. So we generally lack the resources to attain all of the things we want. We lack the money to be able to attain all of those things that we could potentially have. Next, we're going to look at opportunity cost, which is the most highly valued alternative given up when a choice is made. I know that can be a little confusing of a definition, but hopefully our example will help. So let's say you get $20 for your birthday. You're trying to decide what to do next. Option one, some friends invite you to go out and see a movie. And you think, perfect, $10 for the ticket, $10 for popcorn and soda. There's my $20, go have a good time with my friends. But alternatively, you have another option. Option two is to stay at home with your family to play board games. So this option, you spend time with family, and this option, you don't spend any money. So you save your $20 for the future. So you decide to choose option one, and asking ourselves what is the opportunity cost of that decision, the opportunity cost would be the next most highly valued thing that you had to give up to choose option one. So option two was the next most highly valued thing to you, the next best thing that you could have done. So by choosing option one, you give up that $20 that you would have saved by choosing option two, and you also give up that time that you could have spent with your family, which would have been part of option two as well. So that's opportunity cost, the most highly valued alternative given up when a choice is made. The last principle we're going to look at is the idea of a trade-off, when one option must be sacrificed in order to obtain a different option. So you can think of this as kind of a basic cost-benefit analysis, looking at the costs of a decision, looking at the benefits of a decision, and trying to determine whether the benefits outweigh the costs. So to give you an example, you do this in your day-to-day life. So when you wake up in the morning, you could choose to eat a healthy, nutritious breakfast and brush your teeth and do things that you know to be good for you. The cost of that would be, the cost of the food and the time it takes to do those things. But the benefits are that you're a little healthier and that your teeth are a little healthier, and you know that to be good for you in the long run. So in this scenario, you make that choice and you decide, yes, that the benefits of that decision outweigh the costs of that decision, and therefore it's something that you should do. You can also think of this on a macro level when you look at companies, businesses, when you look at governments that have to make these decisions. Looking at so for this example, if a company wants to raise its wages for employees, they have to give something up in that. They have to trade something off in order to obtain that. So they may have to hire fewer people in order to give that raise, or maybe even lay some people off in order to make the working conditions for the other employees a little bit better. So we're going to practice these principles of economics with a little activity as we move back over to Microsoft Teams and as you start working toward your assignments for this week. But the first thing we're going to look at is this activity where you're going to design your lunch. So you have $5 exactly to spend and a list of some popular menu items from some fast food restaurants from McDonald's and Taco Bell. Take your $5, break it down by how much you can afford and what you can get in order to kind of maximize your purchasing power between those two restaurants. Don't worry about tax. Mix and match if you want. And when you get into Microsoft Teams, one of your assignments is going to be kind of our check-in to see if we followed through this video. Hopefully you've been taking notes or taking mental notes of the things that we've been talking about here between the types of economies and our basic principles of economics, and this is going to be part of that too. So if you have questions on this, feel free to post them, send me a message on Synergy Mail, post them into Microsoft Teams as well, and I'll try to get you those answers as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching.